So here I'm going to demonstrate pelvic tilts. We've got north, south, east and west. It's a really lovely way to mobilise the spine if you're in a lot of pain in your back, or if you just want to gently mobilise your spine and your hips. This is perfect. We also need to learn how to do our pelvic tilts to find our centre, to find our middle of our pelvis. So it's good to feel all around the pelvis with our tilts to find that centre a bit easier. So we're in our position on the floor, on our back with our knees bent. Make sure you've got the right sort of head cushion behind your head so your head isn't tipping back. Relax your rib cage on the floor. North tilt is rolling the hips towards you, rounding the lower back off into the mat. A south tilt is when we roll the hips and pelvis away from us to roll through the middle of the sacrum to find the tailbone. So going into our north tilt, rolling onto the top end of the sacrum and rolling onto our lower back that's rounding and hammocking into the mat, and a south tilt. Okay, so notice that my abdomen is actually quite soft and relaxed, and it's scooping, it's dropping towards the spine. What can happen is too much tension going on in the system to do a really low load north tilt exercise. So you can put your hand on your tummy if that helps. So when you do your north tilt, you're feeling the abdomen drop towards your spine. Same when you're tipping the pelvis away from you. Another little thing that you can hold on to make it easier to feel if you're not quite getting it, because it can be an exercise where you find there's a lot of tension going on. Put your thumbs on your bony parts of the pelvis here, known as the hip bones, and your fingers on your thighs. When you do your north tilt, you're rolling the hips, the pelvis towards you, you're rolling onto the lower back. The space between your thumbs and fingers gets much bigger. So we're opening the hips. And then we go in the other direction, the south tilt, those bones get closer together. We're gently closing the hips. North and south. Really take your time to feel the whole movement. Get to the very end of it. Relaxed breath, relaxed abdomen, and once you've found the very north and the very south, then you can find your middle. We're next going to go into our east-west tilts. Here I'm going to demonstrate some pelvic tilts, but the east-west tilts as we call it in Pilates. So first of all, we need to find our neutral pelvis or the middle of our pelvis. So for that, we'll do our north and south tilts, finding the top end of the sacrum and the lower end of the sacrum, and resting the pelvis on the middle of the sacrum, on the very curved part of that bone. Then we want to think about having an equal space between the rib cage and the hip bones, the bony bits of the pelvis here, because our east-west tilts is going to be rotating the pelvis on a steady trunk. This is an important movement that we use in our walking pattern, our gait. So we are going to keep all four corners of the feet in contact with the floor. We're going to gently press. I'm going to start with my right side, gently press into my right foot, and I'm going to allow my right hip to open up towards the ceiling, and my pelvis will gently lift away from the floor as the left side gently drops down. Rolling back through the middle of the pelvis, along a line across the sacrum, pressing into my left foot, left hip opens up to the ceiling as my right drops down. So I'm going to keep my finger and thumb on the bones there. And that's a nice thing to do to monitor what they're doing as you do your east-west tilts. We're going to stay nice and relaxed, pressing into the foot to allow the pelvis and hip to drift up, and then rolling, like I say, on a line across the sacrum to get to the other side. What we want to avoid is a real wiper blade action with the thighs. So what can happen here is more this kind of movement. But we want to avoid that because we want to be able to move the pelvis on its own without anything else moving. So as you allow pressure in the right foot to lift and open the right hip, the knee might drift away slightly. This space stays the same and the knees aren't wipering from side to side. Rolling, keeping the abdomen nice and relaxed and the breath relaxed as well.